Welcome to the Hard Truth Podcast. This is Jeremy Fouts, and today's episode we are going to be talking about helping the next generation. I'm a big believer. Anybody that knows me personally know that it's all about helping that next generation for they can understand what they need to do in order to have success in life. And one of the things I've recognized that is really missing is the adult population getting out into the marketplace and making an impact in that younger generation. And today we are honored to have a special guest, Riccardo Dale. Riccardo Dale is a New Jersey councilman at Beverly City, and he's one of the youngest councilmen. You'll hear his testimony here in a few minutes, but he is also a founder of Free All Minds, which is a mentor program. And you're going to want to hear what he does with younger African American males and helping them get on the right track in life. So I cannot wait for you to hear his testimony. He has definitely took on the burden of helping the next generation, as I feel like all of us need to. So Riccardo Dale, it's an honor and a privilege to have you on the Hard Truth Podcast, and we're all about delivering the truth here. And the truth is, everyone needs to find a way into helping this next generation and becoming what they are possible, the way what God has made them to be. I think it's easy for us to get caught up in our own routine, our own business, our own families, where really and truly it's all about giving back to others. So thank you for joining me all the way
Thank
from New Jersey this morning. And Riccardo, share with us a little bit of your background. I know you didn't always have a perfect trail that you was headed down as well. Share with us a little bit about your background, how you got to be a councilman, what really prompted you in order to give back to that next generation.
Let's go. What up? Thank you. It's an honor to be here. And, to really touch on the work that I'm doing and the work that I plan on doing, I really have to take it back to, why I do this in the first place, like you mentioned. And, my desire to want to do this work stems from my personal upbringing. Growing up, I struggled academically. 16 years old, I was just headed down the wrong path. I'm sleeping on one of my friend's basement floors at the time and just not knowing where my life is headed. Um, and at that point, I could have easily continued to take a downwards trajectory. I didn't really have a lot of, guidance in my life at the time, with the lack of a father figure. And at the time, my mother was struggling with an addiction. It was just an extremely difficult time and a pivotal time in my life where I could have went either direction. I could have just went spiraling in a negative direction into a cycle of poverty, into a cycle of hopelessness, or I could have took a complete 360 and turned my life around and headed to a path of prosperity. And one of the biggest deciding factors in which direction I go, yes, I'm going to be honest, it stems with the person. So it did have a lot to do with myself. But another one of those deciding factors is resources and opportunities. And at 16 years old, as much as I wanted better for myself, sometimes, just wanting better is not enough when you don't know how to put yourself in a better position. And, sometimes you'll look at that young kid at 16 years old, and I know people looked at me and they say, well, maybe he should make better choices. But it's a lot easier said than done, and it's easy from the outside looking in to say somebody should make better choices, but in reality, sometimes these kids don't have better choices to make. So what choices do I have to choose from? So that was something that really sparked my mind, um understanding like all the struggles that I went through and understanding the hurdles that I had to overcome, and how there was coaches and mentors that stepped into my life and changed that trajectory for me. One of them being my basketball coach at the time, who really decided that I'm not just going to let this kid go down the wrong path. I'm not just going to let this kid throw his life away. And as much as he tells me he doesn't care about school, he doesn't care about this, I'm going to care. And I'm not going to take his willingness to just give up as an option. And having that person that will step in and tell you that, you know, sometimes even they believe in you more than you believe in you is major. And having that person that won't let you give up on yourself is major. And having that person that not only will like speak life into you, but the one of the biggest, you know, deciding factors is having that person that will create opportunities and put you in position to be able to take opportunities is major. And that's what, you know, we're doing here with my mentoring program, Free All Minds, not just being there as a support system for these kids, not just, you know, pointing them in the right direction, but actually creating opportunities for them and putting resources in front of them so that they can thrive.
Yeah, I tell everyone one of the things that I've always did working with younger individuals is and even some young adults is I tell them, you know, borrow my belief if you don't have any yourself until you have some yourself. You know, and that's big in believing in others, you know, looking at a young guy and saying, you know what, I believe in you, you know, and that does something for them. That does something for them when you push them, when you believe in them, when they don't believe in self until they start creating that mindset that, you know what, if Jeremy can do it, if Riccardo can do it, I can do it as well. I think that is big. And tell me a little bit more about the mentorship program, what you offer to these younger teenage boys, and how do they be a part of it? And then also, how many of them have you seen that it's just totally changed their life perspective and what they can
For sure.
accomplish?
So yes, Free All Minds, or FAM Academy for short, it's a year-round leadership academy for boys of color. So students in our program have classes weekly all throughout the year, life skills workshops, preparing them for, you know, things outside of the classroom that is not always focused on everything from how to tie a tie to how to change a tire to uh, budgeting and finances, things that, you know, are not always taught depending on what school district you're in, that students are, you know, graduating high school and not having an understanding of. So we have life skills classes, we have career exposure where students are exposed to numerous different career fields. We have your basic academic tutoring and college readiness as well. But as a whole, our program really embodies educating youth for outside of just the classroom, outside of academia. Um, Although we have a heavy push on, you know, getting them prepared for college and having them excel as students, we want them to excel as people just as much as we want them to excel as
Right.
students. So we really focus on them becoming the best person they can be. Um, in the classroom and outside of the classroom. And something that we do every Sunday that is a small part of our program, but such a monumental part of our program is every Sunday all year round. A student can get in our program at eighth grade, and every Sunday until he's a senior in high school, he's having a family dinner with all of the mentors and all of the students in the entire program. Rain, snow, every single Sunday. And that, you know, consistency and structure, um, to give that to a young man is life changing. And you know, there's no curriculum around it. There's nothing that really happens on that day besides us coming together and eating together as, you know, a group of, you know, men and young men. And that alone I've seen do wonders for a kid's just confidence and spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ricardo, you basically are putting a family together for these young men. You know, I mean, you're saying regardless of where you are in life and where mom is, where dad is, you know, we have a family here and you are a part of it.
Yes.
That's big. You know, I mean, the GPA is awesome. Congratulations on that. You know, I've seen the different reels on Instagram of you playing basketball with the boys, and I'm a big athletic person as well. I love athletics. I've got a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old, and you know, and I believe in GPA. I believe in athletics like crazy. I think it keeps a lot of kids out of trouble. You know, I was talking to a recruiter yesterday for my older son, and the first question he asked me was, "What's his GPA?" He didn't ask me what his batting average was. He didn't ask me what anything is. So I think that is very crucial for you to grab these young men and say, look, it's good to be able to play basketball, but we got to work on our grades. But the biggest thing I love about your academy is the fact of you teaching them other skills that they don't learn in their current home or even in school, like finances, how to change a flat, how to, tie a tie. That's crucial. And congratulations on implementing not only the family portion, but also teaching them other trades, other different things that they can do outside of just academics and sports. One of the questions I have for you is how much do you see a big hunger for this younger generation that's looking for mentorship, leadership? Like you said, a lot of them, maybe are making bad choices, but they don't have a lot of choices in front of them. And the reason I ask this question, how hungry is that population, is because I know a lot of times for an older individual, it's easy for them to watch the news and see the younger generation get in trouble, and they automatically think, oh man, they're just a knucklehead. They're just a bad kid. And I get so aggravated at that, Ricardo, because I'm sitting there thinking, man, what would happen to that younger generation if we had tons of Ricardos out there that are not just saying that kid has no chance, but saying, let me give that
Sure.
kid a chance. So how hungry do you see this younger generation of really looking for this mentorship to be a part of a family, to get the right
Yes.
direction?
So I would say extremely. When working with this population, I can see within the students that we serve on a weekly basis that they want to do better. They want an opportunity to grow. They want
Yeah.
an opportunity to not only change their life but their families' lives. Like these kids are 12, 13, 14 years old sometimes talking to me about how they want to make a way for their entire family. And as beautiful as that may sound, that's also almost a sad reality that it's like it's on them to figure this out. Kids that's like, I have to every day watch my mom struggle to even be able to put food on the table. I'm going to be the one to figure that out. As much as that's like a beautiful thing, and I commend you for wanting to be that person, there's also a harsh reality of the fact that like this 12-year-old, this 13-year-old has to be that person rather than being a kid, rather than focusing on
Right.
missing the game-winning shot in his in the basketball game last week. Like some um, average kids, these kids are focusing on how are they going to keep the lights on in their house, or how are they going to get their mom out of the situation where she has to depend on an abusive man just because he's paying the bills. And these are realities that children are dealing with. And they're hungry to make a way. They're hungry to find a way out of that situation. And I see it all the time, and I commend them for that. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. It's sad that they're feeling that pressure to change their family's generation, even though they have been brought into this generation of where they are in life. But, one thing I'll tell you, Ricardo, those that really understand that, they're going to do something powerful with their life. I mean, most of them are going to figure it out because they feel that responsibility. It's not a responsibility that they should feel, but they can use that as fuel in order to do greatness in their life. I know that you don't have to mention any names, but give us some examples maybe of a couple of these gentlemen that you've worked with that has definitely made big time 360 changes in their life, whether it be grades or getting out of trouble or
For
whatever.
sure. Yeah, I have a student that as as crazy as it is, he's a kid that for some reason the people around him and even the adults around myself kind of saw this kid, going down the wrong path, saw this kid going nowhere. This is a kid that dropped out of high school. This was a kid that was often in fights, extremely aggressive, not really friendly, not really a friendly kid. Kind of wanted to stay to himself. Um, and people really saw, him, you know, just going nowhere. They're like, he's in a tough situation where he's bouncing around from home to home. His father's in and out of prison. His mother's not consistently in his life. So when you see this kid and you see all the things that are happening in his life, and then you see even his behavior, the way he's acting, getting in fights, getting kicked out of school, not showing up to school, failing classes. You're seeing this kid that some would think like this kid is not going anywhere. And I saw this kid, and I knew for a fact he wasn't going to stay in his situation off of one thing. Like, our program is free to all of our students, and the parents don't have to pay anything, the students don't have to pay anything. But there's also not any requirement to be there every week or every session. And this kid, and you can imagine, 15, 16 years old, their accountability level, even in a great situation, a 15, 16-year old, this kid was there every single week, and he's failing these classes, he's getting in trouble, and people are saying like this kid is going nowhere. And I'm looking at this kid catching a 40-minute bus to get here. He moved to another group home, him walking to be able to get to the program, his mom not trying to assist him in getting him to the program, him still figuring out how to get to the program. And like weeks and months are going by, and this kid is, no matter what is going on in his life, he keeps getting here to this program that he doesn't have to be at. And I'm like, I'm looking around like, is nobody else seeing this? Like the underlying truth behind the potential that he has. So you see all these things on the outside about what he's not doing or what he is doing wrong, but the ability to consistently show up, there's something in this kid that wants more, and we are overlooking that. And he's a kid that I really connected with, and I was able to begin to talk to him about what he wants out of life. And he wasn't the person that he projected himself to be. He wanted better for himself. He wanted to be able to go to college. He wanted to be able to, provide for himself and his family, and he even wanted to help people. And you would never like know those things if you're just looking at him from the outside looking in. But I could see the potential in this kid. And now, he's in his senior year in high school. He's on the basketball team. He did well academically last year, even though he had to take summer school on classes that he struggled with. And even the fact he showed up to summer school consistently and was able to pass summer school, he's just made great strides. And it's people like that who will really go on to be successful and surprise you. It's not always, the A and B student that goes on to be successful. Is the kid that had to go through all these struggles to get to the other side. Out of all the students that we've had in our program, he's one of the kids that has impressed me the most because of how much he overcomes just to exist, just to show up. Is more
Yep.
than most people have to do.
Yeah, I mean that story pretty much answered my question: is how hungry is that population for change? And this gentleman you're talking about had a desire to change. And Ricardo, it doesn't matter really what age you are, if you're 13, 14, 15, 16, or if you're in your 20s like you, or you're 48 like me, you have to have that desire to change. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. I tell you, it's what other things that you think that you need, like for our audience that maybe needs some support, that you would say, hey man, if you love what I'm doing here, this is how you could support Free All
Yeah.
Minds.
So the biggest thing right now, um, two things. We're highly in need of an administrator that's familiar with the nonprofit industry. But second to that, we are, like most nonprofit organizations, we're in need of funding to be able to support the kids that we're working with. We currently have 100, over 100, 113 last time I checked, 113 young men that are on our waiting list. That means these are young men that want to be a part of what we're doing, who most likely desperately need to be a part of what we're doing, who we can currently not accept into our program because of a lack of funding. So where we are as an organization, we desperately need you know resources to be able to enhance the funding that we can bring in. And one of those resources that's not necessarily funding is an administrator that is familiar in the nonprofit space. So between those two things, those are the two biggest hurdles that we're working on overcoming. So somebody that's listening to this that maybe is familiar with the nonprofit space that wants to volunteer their time, that would be greatly appreciated. And second to that, anybody who's listening to this that feels as though they can be somebody they're in an opportunity, I mean, in a space to give, um, whether it be a donation themselves or whether they know somebody or a company that would be interested in donating to the work that we're doing. um, that is something that's greatly needed and appreciated, and they can do that on our website at www.freeallminds.org, www.freeallminds.org, where they can learn about the work that we're doing and also support.
Awesome. Share with us your Instagram handle too, because if they go to your Instagram channel and see and hear these stories of these young gentlemen, I think there's nothing better that explains the
For
work
sure,
that you're
yeah. So
doing.
my Instagram is freeallminds_freeallminds_.
Free All Minds underscore on Instagram. I tell you, it's been an honor to have you on today's podcast, Riccardo Dale. Keep doing the good work. And, it's all about pouring into that next generation. And you are doing a phenomenal job of that up in New Jersey, and continue the good
Thank you,
work.
I appreciate that.
Well, thank you guys for joining the Hard Truth podcast. My reminder to the audience is don't find yourself in the situation that you're not willing to give back to that next generation. Find someone in need, teach them what it is that they need to do in order to get to that next level in life. It's all about giving back. That's the only way to true happiness. Thank you for joining the Hard Truth podcast. Share with a friend, a family member. Give us back a review. And thank you, Riccardo Dale, for the work that you're doing in these young men's lives.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Let's go!